This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everyone, to this week's edition of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Strozinski. On today's show, a few WWE stars are the walking wounded right now. We'll tell you who. And an update on a returning star. A lot of stuff happening in the world of WWE. Maybe they don't believe in a star as much as they probably should, as they deviated course and has the Doc and myself scratching our heads. We've got AEW's WrestleDream. We've got the results and the fallout from that, as well as what took place on Dynamite this week and what does it spell for storylines to come. Help me break it all down, sort it all out, take the steel chair to the back of the wrestling world. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Cuz, looking forward to breaking down the week of professional wrestling. Was it crappy? Was it spectacular? Did the pay-per-view for AEW deliver what everybody expected? WWE has to change course pretty quickly. We're going to talk about it. Saturday night's main event is quickly taking shape. It's going to be very interesting in November. What's up? Let's break down WrestleDream. I thought it was very interesting the way in which that thing went down. It was long. It was violent. But I thought it did some things in regards to at least what we asked for, putting some people on the map.
Yeah, and look, again, in another AEW pay-per-view, we do a lot of complaining about storylines, and we do a lot of complaining about how they book different stuff. But when it comes to a pay-per-view, I feel like AEW usually hits it out of the park, or at least gives you something enjoyable. I think the big complaint that we have is they always seem to take forever. But when you look at these cards, you've got 12 to 15 matches every time you get a pay-per-view. You're getting your money's worth. It might be a little bit too long, and you might be getting a little bit too much of your money's worth. But again, another solid pay-per-view, setting some stuff up. And it puts the onus on AEW when it comes to your television product to capitalize on that onus. So let's just jump right in. Multiple matches for the undercard. Death Riders defeat Roderick Strong and the Conglomeration in an 8-man tag match. No surprise there. Eddie Kingston and Hook were added to this. They ended up defeating the Frat House. I think that's a good call. You're really trying to push these two guys. You're really trying to get Eddie Kingston back and stable and get him elevated up the card. Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale defeated Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. We were a little bit different on that. We thought the heels were going to get the win there. If I'm being honest with you, my 51% was heels, 49% were the faces. So I could have won either way with that. We then had FTR defeating Jet Speed. Now, I think they did something smart here. This match starts at the end of the undercard. This is basically the free show that they give away. This is like an old tactic that WWE used to do when we were kids. They'll give you this undercard for free. It'll get you hooked. And then it spills over into the main card, and it forces you to put your, back in the day, it used to be $39.99, $49.99, $59.99. At some point, it got all the way up to $70 down to watch the pay-per-view. This gets you hooked to call your pay-per-view provider, because this match started in the undercard, spilled over into the main card. You had fireworks to open the show going off in the background as these guys are wrestling. I thought that was smart. What did you think about how this match basically transitioned, and was that bridge from the undercard, from the free show to the pay-per-view show? I thought it was well done. This is something that you don't see enough of.
Agree. I think that when you looked at it, it was a match that kind of had the ebbs and flows that you would like. And I agree. Now, typically, most people like the stop and start. You get the packages and stuff like that. But there's nothing wrong with starting pay-per-views with wrestling. It's something that I think Tony Khan would say, hey, what would I like that's a little bit different? And so, look, as long as you don't do it too often, it's fine. It's a nice little wrinkle to start what you call WrestleDream. And I think that's where kind of the theme, each pay-per-view kind of has a theme. And this one is kind of like, hey, let's go. There's some action. We like it. And there's no hard and fast rule of when a show is supposed to start in the same way of, you have the disclaimer, you have the pyro, you have the intros, and you just go right into it and get a match going.
Yeah, and like we said, This was something different that AEW has tried, and I think this is something that they should stick to. I like this. Thought this was good. Our match to kick off the main card, our first one, Jamie Hayter ends up defeating Thekla. I think this story is going to continue. It was nice to see a little bit of that old Jamie Hayter that we were talking about last week, the one that we want to see elevated up the card. Again, Thekla comes out, takes Jamie Hayter out. Jamie Hayter gets hurt in the build to whatever was going on with this. Then we come back, and now Jamie Hayter gets a little bit of retribution. I think we see this continue, and I'm here for it. As long as we get that old Jamie Hayter, I'm here for it. Jurassic Express defeated the Young Bucks. This was a banger of a match. I thought this might have been the match of the night. I thought this was an absolutely fantastic match. Jurassic Express, it has that feel to it like they did when they were on their come up. When right after they dropped Marco Stunt and they were just kind of starting to kind of get into their own before they ended up breaking this group up. It feels like they've got that feel back to them. It's almost like this retro feel, which sounds weird because they're not that old. But they end up defeating the Young Bucks. I thought this was a fantastic match. The crowd seemed really into this match. And again, we're early in the card. I thought this was awesome. What were your thoughts on the Jurassic Express Young Bucks match?
Absolutely. And it just goes to show you that, you really, with Perry and Luchasaurus, you just got to do what you got to do. And you got to elevate them and let them do what I think is something that the crowd likes, which is they're a tag team that's relatable to the crowd. You remember the gimmick that they did with whatever it was with Luchasaurus that got the crowd involved. I think people remember that. And Jack Perry's got the history of everything going on. So look, highlight them. You're right. It was a match that I thought the Young Bucks gave of themselves, and I just noted that the Young Bucks work rate it's just always solid, and they're able to. And you look, we laughed at the gimmick of the money, but look, it adds to something different regarding this match. And I just thought that the flow of the match, even though there's high spots and there's not a lot of like significant impact selling that goes on, I thought that throughout the match, it did get a little bit better with the psychology, and I thought the right team won.
Our next match was the Hurt Syndicate defeating the Demand in a Toronto Trios match. Now, this had another stipulation that was added on. This is to be a number one contenders for the AEW World Trios title. I want to make a note here. Hurt Syndicate, specifically against the Demand, seem to have been working more as faces. I don't think they were the most baby of baby faces, but seem to be working more as the good guy. So note that for what kind of comes later on in this program, because remember who your Trios champions are. Kyle Fletcher ends up defeating Mark Briscoe to retain the AEW TNT title. Chris Statlander ends up defeating Timeless Tony Storm to retain the AEW Women's title. Now, this celebration gets cut off, unfortunately, by Mercedes Moné, who then has an impromptu match against Mina Shirakawa in a winner-take-all match. Now, this sets Mercedes Moné up to become the interim ROH Women's Television Champion. She now holds the records for most championships. I think it's at 12. Statlander ends up coming out at the end of this match to take out Moné, and now they're building a program. Again, something that we've asked for with AEW pay-per-views. Set us up for something new. This one did that. This set us up for something new. I'm interested to see where Statlander and Moné go. They had a little dust-up on Dynamite. I'm here for it. I hope Statlander gets the better end of all of this. I think we're tracking that direction as Mercedes Moné continues to break records. She's running out of records to break. At some point, she's going to start taking L's, and those belts are going to start to come off. Now, one of the more interesting matches, Brodito ends up defeating Kazuchika Okada and Takeshita to retain the AEW tag team titles. In this match, they gave you a little nugget. Okada ends up taking out Takeshita. And again, friction has been building between these two. Okada took out Takeshita accidentally on purpose, whatever it was. This led to Brodito getting the win. Remember that because I think this sets up another little something for later on down the line. It's another little nugget that I'm here for. Hangman Page ends up defeating Samoa Joe to retain the AEW World title. Now, after the match, Joe goes to congratulate Hangman Page, and then Joe and the Ops turn heel and will now face the Hurt Syndicate in the Trios title. Remember, I told you to put a little stamp on the Hurt Syndicate working as faces. I want to get your thoughts on Samoa Joe and the Ops turning heel, beating up Hangman Page. Hangman Page obviously very upset at Samoa Joe. Again, just like a light switch gets flipped, and now Joe and the Ops are heels. The Hurt Syndicate are faces, and they have a match set for Dynamite. in the end, Joe and the Ops end up beating the Hurt Syndicate while the Demand and specifically Ricochet come out to kind of interfere in this match. There's a lot going on here. So let's start here. First off, your thoughts on the Hangman and Joe match. And then I want to get your thoughts on Joe and the Ops turning heel. And we'll talk about the rest of this after.
Yeah, no doubt. I felt like the match was great. I do like the way in which now Samoa Joe and his career and what he can do. You do feel like it's an important win. But the way I put it is I like the fact that the Ops are heels and Hurt Syndicate are faces. I just don't know if I like the way we got here. It's like they just made the decision and it happened. I feel like there's just better ways to get to this point, but I don't know how. But I feel like it's fine. I do think that it just had the feel of, okay, we need heels, we need faces, and we need these guys in these roles. I just don't know if they got to that point to the way in which, I don't know if it was too fast. I don't know if it was just like, okay, now they're just doing it. You know, I don't know. I guess the question is, was the timing right for this? I do recognize that, you know, many people felt like the Hurt Syndicate have now been one of the most popular teams. But sometimes that's when you can kind of double down and make them, you know, appear to be faces, but then be really heels. That's how when you flip based on the whims of the fans, I understand it. But at the same time, I feel like for storyline development and for heat, I don't know, maybe you could have kept the Hurt Syndicate by, you know, getting themselves involved, like kind of, you know, in a little bit of a way of a tease, is that you have them involved with your faces and build some alliance, some trust, like, hey, we can trust you guys. And then, like, you know, just a simple Hangman Page just in a backstage segment with the Hurt Syndicate going, man, you guys are making some noise, interesting. And then just a little bit of banter, then you slowly, it just felt like to me a little bit rushed, and that's all it is. But look, I agree with it. I think that there's some ways to go. Just got to stick with it now. And not for it just feels like for the sake of the match, you're like, well, we need these guys heels, we need these guys faces, and let's just do it. But in the end, it was good. It was interesting, an interesting nugget at the end of a good match. Adam Hangman Page, I do think as world champion, will put some good notches on his belt and will make the reign valuable.
Yeah, look, I agree with you 100%. The way we got here, it just kind of seemed thrown together. It almost seemed like you picked names out of a hat and like, you're going to be a babyface, you're going to be a heel. Go have your matches, and then we'll come back and we'll try to tie it all together with a bow. I just didn't like how we got here. And then to have this set up for the match that we ended up getting on Dynamite and the way that match ends up ending, I didn't like that because I want to save it until we get to our conversation on Dynamite, because Dynamite left me asking one question, and I think it's relevant. I think it's poignant. So let's hang around. Let's stick around for that. We'll put that towards the back end. Our main event sets up for Darby Allin versus Jon Moxley in an I Quit match, where we got Sting, who returned to help out Darby Allin in a victory. You got to see gray hair Sting, which was kind of cool. To be honest with you, I forgot that Sting was still kind of working with AEW. So that was a cool little nod. Overall, I want to get your sense. Jon Moxley's a guy who bleeds basically on command. Darby Allin does some of the craziest shit you've ever seen, throwing himself off of balconies and banisters and throwing himself through things. Darby Allin is a callback to what I would deem a safer, more 2025 version of ECW.
Yeah.
This match felt like it was set for all the blood, all the guts, all the gore. And I don't know if it hit those marks. It felt
right.
a little bit tame to me. I wanted to get your overall sense on this match as Darby Allin comes away with a victory in it.
Yeah, exactly. It was one of those deals where it was like reverse psychology. Everybody expected like, what kind of utensil is Jon Moxley going to take to the skin of Darby Allin? And it kind of worked to the crescendo of, I think that, you know, dunking a man's head in a tank is not exactly the crescendo of what violent fans like. You know what I mean? It's like, we don't want you to kill the man. You know what I mean? And it's so funny. Guys, I'm pretty sure Moxley was not going to kill. I love the memes. It was so funny. There was a meme. I don't know if you saw the tweet. It was so funny. It was like, Tony Khan actually had to deny Darby Allin's request to die in the ring. You know what I mean? It was so funny. They were like, the original plan was for Darby Allin to die in the ring, but Tony Khan had to veto that. It was really funny the way it was put together. Look, and then when you get the people going, oh my God, some of the other reactions were like, you know, kids are going to now try this in their middle school, and this is such a inappropriate manifest. Guys, if your kid doesn't understand that you don't take another man's head and dunk it in the water for any period of time, dunking underwater and choking underwater is not kids' play. This is why there's always the disclaimer that you don't do the things you see. It's entertainment. Don't copy what you see at home. And it was kind of funny when WWE, cuz remember, I don't know if you were, but I get it. You know, that people were like, you know, it might not be a good idea to go on the roof of your house and jump off and try and do a suplex.
Oh, I remember those days.
It might not be a good idea. I blame Vince McMahon. It's like, you maybe needed to keep your kid off the roof, dumbass. And, realize these are paid professionals, and it's not your job to pile drive your little cousin into the table in your, at Thanksgiving. Slick. So I looked at it and I said, look, I got what I needed out of the match. Darby Allin's the dude. And yeah, it just basically, this is also the byproduct of when you do so many gory matches, you almost feel like you have to top it. So Adam comes out here and is like, man, they did all this stuff and I'm not really thrilled. I get it. That's the byproduct. And that's how many people would feel when you do so much gore, so much craziness, that in essence, there's this bloodlust that develops that you almost can't top. So that when they actually have a decent match that is on the aggressive side but not so gory, you're like, oh, I waited 6.5 hours. Could you at least, decapitate his arm or make his arm look like it's going to fall off? Or can we have like a football injury where his leg is like, going the wrong direction? Can you do a little something extra for the investment that I made here? But it's just tough, man. It's tough because at that point at the pay-per-view, I watched most of it. That one I had to wait because I was nodding off, man. And I looked at it like, good match, but it's one in which, I feel like a lot of the pay-per-view could have been cut into a lot of different parts. So I give the match a solid B+. And the right guy won. And look, Sting, even though he's retired, I do like the look is crazy. I don't know how to describe it. It's like, you're seeing I don't want to say, it's like an older veteran, but you're seeing him in like his oldest form, like it's a different form of look, all white and that look, but it was really cool to see, and it fit perfectly in the match.
Yeah, he has this. Again, we're gonna go with the word retro. It's like this retro Sting, and it works. I don't know why, but it works, and I think it's awesome. I think it's fantastic, and more to what you said. This is what happens when you get the two guys who like to do the craziest shit in a match. They did some crazy stuff. It just didn't hit the marks that some of the crazier stuff that they've done in the past has hit. And this is a pay-per-view. This is the main event. This is supposed to be the match that is the end-all matches. And really, it just kind of felt like it was a bit of a continuation, which we'll talk about here shortly. We go to calling the card. We split the point. I still lead you by 3 points. It is 10-7, my lead. That sets us up for Dynamite. And I'm going to be honest with you. The most interesting storyline that AEW has right now, in my opinion, is the Okada and the Takeshita storyline. These are two guys who are part of the same family, the Don Callis family. Two guys who have been recruited by Don Callis. Two guys that Don Callis has spent a lot of time building. And to me, when I watch this, you've got the old star in Okada, who you can tell has geared it down. Okada is not the same guy who is giving you 10-star matches with Kenny Omega. It's not the same. He doesn't have the same motivation. Doesn't seem like he has the same lust for the industry right now. Not since he's come to AEW. He's very comedic. He puts together good matches. I haven't seen a great match from Okada since he was in New Japan. But Takeshita, this is a guy who is now the New Japan champion. This is a guy who 2 years ago we were telling you they need to do something with. He's a freaking star. They're making something out of him. He's a freaking star. And you've got these two guys on a collision course, butting heads, and it is starting to spill over at every moment it can. And I'm loving it. I'm here for it. I feel like we have a bit of a passing of the torch between one of the greatest wrestlers in Japanese history to ever do this and a guy who is coming for that throne. And I feel like Okada almost handpicked Takeshita to do it. And this has me engaged. This is the one thing that I want to see more of. I'm going to be honest with you. Wednesday, when watching Dynamite, I was about an hour behind after we got my daughter down. And I was tired, bro. I wanted to go to sleep. But I sat there and I hung out and I waited and I waited and I waited because I wanted to see the end credits because I thought Takeshita was gonna cost Okada his championship in his championship defense against Bandito. He didn't, but I thought it was gonna happen, and then he comes out onto the ramp and they have their argument back and forth while Okada's in the ring looking smug and cocky, and Takeshita just looks like he's about to unravel. To me, this is the best storyline in AEW right now, and I'm here for it. I want to get your thoughts on this specific storyline.
Absolutely, and I think this is one of the ones where the wrestlers are involved in it. They're weighing in with Tony. They want to make it special. They both can get some involvement. Also, too, with Takeshita's news with New Japan, that makes it so much more relevant. And with Okada, I just think that it's great. I think that both will benefit, both will be into it, and it'll be a feud that the people will really like. And then, no doubt about it, I think most people truly believe the matches will deliver. So it's exactly right. You stayed up, you were battling, you were thinking, hey, I can't sit through this hour of all this women's promotional work here for AEW. And listen, I'll be honest, Dynamite was led in the early parts by the women. I thought it was really cool. Yes. So it was a good idea, I think, after the pay-per-view to go that route. So it made for a Dynamite that I think has been better. Now, is it still as good as what you like after pay-per-views? No. I feel like they need a little bit more impact. But at the same token, it was better than what we've seen in the past. So it's intriguing by giving the women the opportunity. And they're moving in a direction that at least has some flow, which is good.
Which sets me up perfectly for what we're going to talk about next. They unveiled their brackets for the AEW Tag Team Women's Championship. I want to get your thoughts on, out of these teams, you've got 8 to choose from. Who would you push? You've got Queen Aminata and Jamie Hayter. They're taking on Julia Hart and Sky Blue. You got Willow Nightingale and Harley Cameron. They're taking on Mercedes Moné and Athena. You got Alex Windsor and Rio taking on Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa. You got Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford taking on Ty Mello and Anna Jay. Out of those 8 teams, if you had to put your money on one to say, I'm going to put the rocket on you and I'm going to shoot you to the moon because I think you're going to help make these titles relevant, who would it be?
Well, I always feel like Tay Mello has been somebody that can be a star, but, has been, through some ups and downs, family stuff, and it's going to be interesting stuff. Anna Jay, I really respect and like, so I always think of them first. But, yeah, it's going to be great to see who they end up deciding because I kind of feel like, once Tony Khan gives you the opportunity, it'll be something that these women, I think, will cherish because it's now their time. They realize, wow, we just carried a nice portion of Dynamite, and so there's opportunities here. And I really do think that, whatever's happening with Britt Baker kind of overshadowed the women a little bit. And then you get Mercedes Moné, who's dominant so much. So some tag team action, you at least would say, okay, if you have an opportunity to get the ball, then you have a chance to at least get a spotlight and highlight. Because I feel like, it has been, and WWE has made it worse, where when women and some men get put in tag teams, it just kind of feels like, well, we need something for you to do, so go run a tag team, and then we're just going to use it as a way to set up feuds by breaking everybody up. You can have a legitimate tag team that tells stories that can be a little bit even more fruitful to get more of these people over. And so you actually extend careers, too, because you're doing half the work in these matches. So I can't wait to see who's going to get the opportunity from the women. But I always feel like Tay Mello has something there and Anna Jay have something there that they could tap into even more than what they have been.
I would agree with you. I feel like they're untapped potential. I feel like they forever and a day have been that lower mid card team or set of females or just female wrestlers, and I feel like there's so much more. I feel like if they could put it together, they could be main event talent.
Yeah.
They just never have. I feel like the safe choice would be Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa. You also have Mercedes Moné and Athena. Those are 4 big names that I feel like could carry a title, make it relevant. All that being said, if there was one team that I was going to push, it would be Queen Aminata and Jamie Hayter.
Yeah.
My goal would be to get Jamie Hayter back to that relevancy And it seems like they really, really like Queen Aminata. They believe in Queen Aminata a lot. If you remember when Queen Aminata first debuted a couple of years ago, she was just kind of like a throwaway match. They immediately signed her, started developing her, and she's been in some of these bigger storylines with the women. A lot of stuff takes place on Collision. We don't do a good enough job of talking about Collision, but she's been in a ton of storylines on Collision, doing different things on Collision, as well as in ROH. And again, we don't do a good enough job of talking about either one of those programs, but they believe in her. If I had to put money down and we're going to build future stars, it's going to be the team of Queen Aminata and Jamie Hayter. And again, I feel like you get Hayter back to that main card, that main event status, and you have her bring Queen Aminata along for the ride. You now have two stars that you can build different programs around when they do go to drop those belts and make two new stars in that tag division. So that's how I would do it if I was putting money on somebody. WrestleDream left us. We went into Dynamite, and those to me were some of the bigger things that came out of Dynamite. But when I got done watching Dynamite, out loud, I said to myself, what was the point of WrestleDream? What was the point of us having this pay-per-view that we spent over 5 hours watching and we had a ton of matches? Yeah, it was good. And yeah, HBO Max and Tony Khan got our $50 or whatever the heck it was. What was the point of watching WrestleDream if Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe are still tied up in a storyline?
Right.
If Darby Allin is not done with Jon Moxley and the Death Riders, and if the Hurt Syndicate's not done with the Demand and Ricochet. Like, those were three feuds that we were looking for some finality on and setting things up to move forward. What the hell is the point of WrestleDream if we're not moving forward? If we're just kind of stuck here? I don't need to see Darby Allin. I don't need to see Jon Moxley again. I would like Darby Allin to move on. I don't want to see Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe again. I just don't. And same thing with the Hurt Syndicate and the Demand. I was looking for the Hurt Syndicate to move on. I'm over seeing Ricochet and the Demand. I think Ricochet has done a great job with his group called the Demand, and I think he has helped elevate two guys, but I want to see him go do that against other people. I don't know what the point of WrestleDream was, because some of the biggest stories on that program or on that pay-per-view are still filtering down. And to be honest with you, when we go to Full Gear in November, I feel like we're going to be having these same matches again. I wanted to get your thoughts on it, because I just didn't understand what the hell the point of WrestleDream was if we're not going to have some finality.
Right. And so remember, too, that storylines, what we have been focused on has been the lack of them and the interest level. But the other aspect that people have talked about and you just brought up has been the timeline. It's like there should be some finality and we're used to things moving on, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's just a little sample. Exactly. Well, because to answer your question, what's the point of the pay-per-view? Tony likes to see matches, and he likes to focus more on, hey, did you guys execute a good psychological story? Did you entertain the fans? Did you get over a little bit? Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you survive? Good. And then he can do all the promo and all the stuff. And then he can say, my God, these guys are the best wrestlers in the world. That's it. But you and I and most wrestling fans look at storylines like, okay, beginning, middle, end. And unfortunately, Tony Khan is not a fan that remembers or even cares about storylines having a natural progression of timing with beginning, middle, end, result, emotion. It's more like, okay, I think I like that. Let's keep it going. And I think that's how they do it, is they go, you know what, that was pretty good. That chocolate swirl, that's pretty good. Let's go somewhere else. He goes on vacation to London and he gets an ice cream place. He's like, I like it. He goes right back there the next day. And the missus is like, there's like 50 other stores in this mall. And he's like, no, but I like this one. And you're like, again? We just went here yesterday. And he's like, yeah, why not? I liked it. So that's what it is. And everyone's like, you go to a vacation to try a variety of things. And then the next day he's like, yeah, I want to go back to that place. I'm kind of the same way in regards to once you like something, you're like, well, if I know I like it, I kind of want to keep doing it. But in wrestling, it's different in that we all kind of have been conditioned to beginning, middle, end. The story has some impact, and then it kicks off into something a little bit more interesting. But, with how Tony does it. I kind of am used to it, so it doesn't bother me as much. And I'm like, okay, it's a furthering of a story where they're like, okay, in the AEW world, another match or another opportunity can just be like, hey, let's do this again and build some chemistry with some of these guys. So I get it. I do think that that's where they could also improve is the interesting level and the timing of these storylines. But that's AEW, and the more you get used to it, the more it doesn't bother you as much. The more you just look at, okay, was the match good? Did it do the job? Did it put me to sleep? And then just quickly to your point, they got to do something with Collision, man. The hour after Dynamite is just terrible. You kill the crowd. The crowds haven't been into it. The ones that have been right after Dynamite have just been terrible. The crowd is thoroughly exhausted, and there's nothing there. And so I just think that even if you get preempted, okay, fine, we get preempted this week, tape it like you've always done, and then air it at a different time, or maybe find a different time that's a little bit more useful. I always feel like Saturday night at 6 has always been ingrained for wrestling fans that they love Saturday, WCW Saturday night. Collision doesn't have to be at 8. Let it be the appetizer to your week and get after it. So, Collision has just kind of been worse. It really is. And it harkens back, and sorry to bring up this bad name, but it's like a worse version of Thunder. And Thunder was just a show. It's what it is. It's a worse version of Thunder. Thunder was cool at first. When they kicked it off, they put real storylines. They had the NWO on it. And by the end, it was just like, we just got to produce this shit. What the hell can we put on here? And that's what Collision is right now. Purely.
Yeah, it, to me, feels like there are points where I'm just like, what are we doing?
Right.
Why are we doing this? Like, they're missed opportunities is what it comes down to sometimes. Yep. And Thunder was a show that was built on missed opportunities. The biggest opportunity I think that was ever given was the Glacier on Thunder. And how that gimmick went if you're a wrestling fan. So it to me, I just don't, like I said, I just don't know what we're doing. So it just seems like I don't have a storyline for any of these guys. I don't have anything pre-booked or pre-planned. So we're just going to go right back into the same thing. And so now everybody is kind of stuck with the same thing. Something that was not the same thing. Let's switch gears. Let's talk WWE. AJ Styles, Dragon Lee. They defeat the Judgment Day, win the tag titles. I think the Judgment Day, specifically Finn Balor and old Big Head over there, I think their title defense of those championships was sad. I think they only defended those titles twice. But all of that being said, AJ Styles and Dragon Lee do get the win on Monday Night Raw. Does it feel a little bit weird, and does it look a little bit weird with AJ Styles and Dragon Lee holding those tag team belts together? Because I was like, that's a little bit strange. Like AJ Styles and Dragon Lee together. I don't know how we got there necessarily. I know that there's been a lot of stuff in the back, especially with CM Punk and those guys being deemed AJ Lee. I get that. And it was kind of a meme that I think maybe has spiraled out of control. But them as a tag team defeating a legitimate tag team, specifically your tag team champs, was odd to me. And it feels, I don't know if there's something else coming down the way, specifically for the Judgment Day. We've been kind of plotting the demise of the Judgment Day forever and a day now. So I could see that taking place, but I don't know why two dudes thrown together for a tag team defeated your tag team champs that spend every day together. I have a hard time with that. And that's basically what I'm saying. I wanted to get your thoughts on it because I think it looks weird. I think it feels weird. I think it is weird. I'm happy AJ Styles has a championship, but I don't know if this is the way I would have went about it.
Right. It just was like, okay, let's do it. Yeah, it is the weird. I was like, oh, we even joked in a we forgot that there was a tag team that was there that held the men's title. That's how few, it just became irrelevant. So yeah. I think it was a reset. They're like, oh, wait a minute. The writers were like, wait a minute, we got tag titles here. We got to do something. DocNJock Wrestling Podcast forgot that they were there. They were talking like there was no tag team anymore. And they had it. Look, it can mean something. And I do think that, in a sense, that's kind of, in a way, a little bit disrespectful to AJ Styles, is that he's so much bigger than a tag title reign right now. But look, Dragon Lee's cool. It's interesting. It is a little bit surprising, but exactly, that's where the reverence we all have for AJ Styles is that he should be just in so much good stuff right now. But he's at the tail end of his career, so it's something where he's like, okay, give me whatever you're going to give me. And they're like, you know what? You were a trooper in the overseas tour. You had a great match with John Cena. Everybody loved it. So let's give you a title. Well, what title can we give you? We can't give you the IC, this new wave of U.S. title. We can't give you that. So you're on Raw. Let's give you the tag titles and let's have some fun with it. So it's just something that can maybe tell a story down the road if AJ wants to work with Dragon Lee, even if you want to have a breakup or Dragon Lee becomes heel or something that can be really cool. So in the end, it's all good. It's surprising. But yeah, at this point in time, I do think that to turn our attention, it's about time that Finn Balor steps to the forefront and gets away from the Judgment Day. And the Judgment Day, JD McDonough can go off and maybe start off side feud or start the Judgment Day with others that are a little bit different. But Finn Balor needs to be booted, man. He's so much bigger than the Judgment Day. It just seems like he was limited, and it has stifled, I think, the prime of his career. Finn Balor is main event stuff. Like, you're talking about highlighting him with the Usos and other type stuff. So let's see what happens with Finn Balor. I feel like he got the check and was like, all right, like, you don't have to accept shitty creative. You can be like, all right, I'm main event guy, put me in it, and just keep saying it. Keep saying it. Like, if you're gonna sign and end up going the Miz route, I wouldn't like that. Like, I'm Finn Balor. I'm one of those guys that can wrestle, and I do feel like once they give him the opportunity, they'll realize, oh my God, we got a gem here. This is Finn freaking Balor. Who politically is gonna advocate for Finn Balor? I feel like Finn's like a sweetheart, and he's like, there's some people that are rugged and that they don't want to rock the boat. I feel like Finn Balor, rock the boat, bro. Tell somebody. Do a little promo on Pat McAfee or some wrestling podcast and be like, man, I feel like my last 3 years I've just kind of went with the blur and nothing happened. Say something. Do something. Rock the boat a little bit and get the attention on your side, because this is Finn freaking Balor. And having a 5-month title reign with 2 defenses is not the standard. Not the standard.
I agree with you 100% wholeheartedly. And here's the deal, too. Do you remember AJ Styles cutting a promo about how somebody in the back was trying to hold them down and hold it back? We just did away with that. We had a promo and we did that 1 week, and then the follline week it's
a good little nugget.
We're good with that. We're not doing anything with it. It was thrown in the trash.
Yeah, it could be Finn Balor. It could be perfectly if down the road Finn Balor costs the tag team. They need a name. I don't know what the hell they're going to call it, but you have a little nugget. And that can be that.
Well, we talk about people in the back holding other people back. I think we're seeing that a little bit. Let's set this up. So Adam Pearce comes out, basically tells you that AJ Styles has to relinquish it, or that Seth Rollins has to relinquish his title. And he won't be wrestling for a long time because he's severely injured. Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed come down with Paul Heyman. Adam Pearce asks for the title, for the championship back. He eventually gets it, sets up a battle royal that we're going to have to crown a number 1 challenger to CM Punk, who both these guys will then fight for the championship and will be crowned your new WWE heavyweight champion. So all this goes on. Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed are supposed to be included in this battle royal. Later on in the night, we find out that they are now excluded from this battle royal, which leads you to scratch your head and think, what the hell? So this match goes off, and I guess the big thing coming out of it is WWE goes safe. Jey won the match to give him the opportunity. I think the big thing that came out of him winning was that Jimmy saved Jey a few times, only for Jey to eliminate Jimmy. And there are some more fractures in that relationship, which I feel is a good thing because I don't know where we're going with it. So the more splintering, the better. But the bad thing is you do this whole storyline with Seth Rollins because he got hurt.
Yeah.
And it really felt like it was Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed's time, specifically Braun Breaker.
Correct.
And you exclude him from the Battle Royal, which he should have been the guy to win the Battle Royal to go on to face CM Punk. And it just kind of feels like Triple H does not believe in the 2 guys that he's trying to groom into stars. He doesn't feel like they are ready for that spotlight. And essentially he told you so on Monday Night Raw with the actions with Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed being excluded from that match. And to be honest with you, once I found out that they were going to be excluded, I was like, okay, cool. They're going to interfere in this match somehow and they're going to cost somebody something, and they're going to destroy the match. And I kind of felt like that was the way it should have went. That was not what we got. Instead, we got Jey winning, and we just set some stuff up with Jimmy. I don't know what we're doing here, and I don't like what we're doing here. I'll be 100% honest with you. The speculated story for Braun Breaker, I loved. I loved it. It was supposed to be these guys going together. The Vision was supposed to stay together through WrestleMania. After WrestleMania, Braun Breaker was supposed to break away. He was supposed to have a feud with Brock Lesnar. It was supposed to be the passing of the torch, and he was supposed to be off and running. In the middle of all that, we were supposed to have War Games with the Vision and whomever was wrestling with the Bloodline. And again, I was there for all of it. I thought it was going to be great. I don't know what the hell we're doing. I feel like creative over the last 2 weeks for specifically what remains of the Vision, Seth Rollins, Jimmy and Jey, CM Punk. I just feel like it is all entangled and it is all a mess. I want to get your thoughts on where Jimmy and Jey are. I want to get your thoughts on Braun and Bronson and what is going on there. I feel like there's a bit to unpack here, and I'm frustrated by what I'm seeing.
Yeah, because, the story doesn't go exactly right. Like, in the end, it just feels like, okay, we do got to get CM Punk a run here. Like, clearly they're not going to go to Jey Uso. We know who's going to win the title. It's pretty clear. The next champ has to be the guy that's been working. Now, okay, the next question is, okay, CM Punk's going to be the champion. Now, you also have a big, fat German dude that's going to be involved here, so you could kind of veer away there. So you realize, okay, CM Punk can fight Gunther at first. You can revisit some of these things that you're talking about in a little bit here, maybe toward WrestleMania and all that kind of stuff. But in the end, the idea is Braun Breaker is now newly established as a leader. And sometimes leaders, they got to establish themselves, get involved, but it doesn't necessarily have to involve the title. I know the title is the big thing, but for Braun Breaker, it's still new. There's still some opportunities that they got to figure out, because it may also be that, when you have a big injury, Seth Rollins getting hurt really put a big monkey wrench, because he's the focal point of a lot of these things. He's the, antagonist that was going to get into a feud with CM Punk. He was going to do some things to move it forward, and then you're going to set up the feud with Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. So now you have you're in this holding pattern, and you need you need Paul Heyman to kind of insert himself. And I thought the segment with Becky Lynch was pretty cool. And so
the segment with Becky Lynch was great.
It was great. And so you now realize, okay, we're at the beginning phases of seeing. I think that's what you said was the goal. It's a little bit messy. We are at the beginning of the answers, but the answers now are at the very beginning, where I think in March or April of next year, when we look back on what did we talk about back in October prior to Survivor Series, you now need Survivor Series to kick off the next feuds. I think the name that you're going to see that you got to kind of figure out how to incorporate into all this, which will help, is Roman Reigns. And once Roman gets involved, he needs to get his revenge on Bronson Reed, on Braun Breaker. He needs to put them in their place so he can end 2025 on a high note. Breaker gets mad, Reed get mad. They then re-strategize and kick off with probably Breaker winning the Royal Rumble and kicking off like, okay, I'm mad now. I'm going to go for CM Punk. I need to be the head of the table. And then you got to have CM Punk kind of establish his reign of a title with a lot of defenses. So basically, I know we want to get there faster. I just think that Breaker has to establish his persona, where his dominance is going to lie. And I think that we're so excited. We want the mission statement. Like, what's your why going to be now? What is it going to be? What's it going to be all about? And it's just formulating in regards to, you still got loose ends and you still got to tie it together for when we see the War Games match. I know Roman Reigns will be involved, how they involve Brock Lesnar, how they involve Cody Rhodes. We got to tie it together a little bit. Where it leaves Jimmy and Jey, look, Jimmy is in that pattern of, okay, I got to establish myself as well, and he's with his brother. They need to, clearly Jay's going to lose, and then they'll reestablish themselves as a tag team, maybe get into the title picture, nice little matches. They need to move away from the bloodline, still be in it, but kind of move away from it. And the focal point, unfortunately, because it's part-time, it's hard to do stories, but Roman Reigns has to get his revenge on the two dudes. And I think it'll come together when Roman is able to defeat Reed, and they'll have another match, that's clear. And then maybe turn his attention to Braun Breaker, who now I think his thesis is, I'm the leader, I'm the big dog. Now I got to show it in some ways, and it is messy at this point. But trust me, WWE, will eventually get to the point where they start tying it together. Trust me.
All right, so you say that we need a little bit more seasoning on Braun Breaker before we pull the trigger.
Yeah, and I do think too. I do think that it's like, come on, dude, CM Punk. If it was supposed to be to defeat Seth Rollins, it didn't happen. The dude got hurt, so now you just give him. Now it's not the finishing your story to get it. Now it's give him the belt, and now he gets to have good stories with Gunther, with Jey, with Breaker, with Reed. He can do all these stories and have the title for a year if he can stay healthy, and then he can pass the torch to. I think Braun Breaker should take the title from CM Punk.
Okay. All right, we'll see where it ends up and where it leads us to.
Yep.
I'm gonna trust you, and I'm gonna say we need a little bit more seasoning on the big fella. I'm a little bit frustrated with where we're at? So
wild diversion. Would you have Brock Lesnar beat CM Punk and then get into the feud with Braun Breaker for WrestleMania? I feel like I just feel like it's probably cheaper. Not. It's cheaper. I think that Breaker should defeat. Breaker should defeat CM Punk, but at the tail end, it could be the Survivor Series. It could even be, something along the lines of a show like we just had in Saudi, at a Crown Jewel. Everyone thinks that it's it doesn't have to be in the States. It could be in France. It could be whatever. But as long as CM Punk gets 8, 9, 10 months, then it's pretty good. He gets his reward for all the time that he's waited, all the stuff. It just sucks because it would have been great for Punk to win it against Seth Rollins. It would have tied the stories together.
For sure. It's something that I don't think that we're surprised about, but maybe we are. Last week, Ilya Dragunov shows up.
Ooh.
He's now your new U.S. champ. Did Sami Zayn get hit with that 40-day mark for holding the title? We joke about it all the time. You get 40 to 50 days as a champ, and then you got to turn the belt back in, and somebody else has to get the run. Was that what we hit? Because I feel like Sami Zayn had like 3 open U.S. Open challenges, and then he lost. What?
Yeah, it was a weird.
Look, some of the reports that were coming out was that this was a soft run to see if Sammy could draw, so they could put a championship belt on him.
Yeah, and
obviously we just kind of laid some storylines out. It does not feel like he's going to get a championship run anytime soon.
No, and the report that said that why would that be the report where it was Sammy's idea to drop it to Ilya? No, it was. No, it wasn't. No, nobody does that. Nobody goes, I'm 150 days. I'm 3 months into my title reign. I feel like it's a good time to drop it. Like, no, it didn't. That's not what happened. And I just think that
literally Sami Zayn wasn't even a month and a half into it.
Right. It was terrible. It was a terrible run. That's how you cheapen belts. That's how you cheapen wrestlers. The belt is the belt, but that's how you cheapen it. Sami Zayn deserves better in regards to the way he's booked. It's just the way it is. It's just one of those guys that gets booked weird, but because he's a company guy and he needs to rock the boat. Like, come on,
Balor,
man,
bro. He's Finn Balor just with red hair.
Exactly. And you got to say, listen, no, I'm not losing to Ilya. I know what you guys want. He's coming back. Let's have some matches. Let's play it out a little bit. Let's get Ilya over with the matches. But Ilya, being the U.S. champ, is kind of like, oh, well, this was our NXT boy that we wanted to put the rocket ship on. But the guy just came off of an injury. You need a slow run. And having some
Friday night.
Yeah.
That crowd was so not into him.
Yeah, no, dude, he's been out for a year. That's not, you didn't tell a story.
They were wutting him every chance they got. They were just not into his promo. And it was a decent match against Aleister Black.
Yeah.
But like, again, Aleister Black's not losing because you're trying to build him with Priest. And Ilya Dragunov's not necessarily winning clean because you're trying to build Aleister. It was just messy. Again, what are we doing?
And also, too, it's always funny, as I love the reports where they come out and they go, Jey Uso, his winning and the announcement of Saturday night's main event being CM Punk and Jey Uso got more dislikes than likes on YouTube. That's always funny to me because the crowd didn't want that. They don't want to see Jey Uso. Like, they liked what they did with Jey Uso. It's like, Jey Uso was a singles champ. Now he's back in the tag team, but let's put him in a singles championship run again. That's like, nah, man. You could have even had Braun Breaker in the match and lose to CM Punk. That would have been great. Like, you could have had all the cheating. You could have had, a moment where Paul Heyman is looking at CM Punk and saying, your time is over. And then, it would have made the moment even special to be the guy that you think is on the up and comer. So that's where I just think that it involves most people's angst is to your point, and also they didn't want to see Jey Uso. Like, you took the rocket shit off of him. Why put it back on him? Because you got forced. Like, stick. Like, if you're already going down that road, let CM Punk beat the biggest guy, because you also elevate CM Punk and you give Braun Breaker. You plant the seed for why Braun Breaker wants to get the that much closer to the belt.
Yep, I agree with you. I want to get your thoughts on this. I've got some creative that I was kicking around watching Friday Night SmackDown. We're trying to figure out what happened to Jacob Fatu last week. Jacob Fatu was taken out previous to a match that he was supposed to have with Drew McIntyre for the number one contender for Cody Rhodes Championship, which is supposed to take place at Saturday night's main event. So as this is kind of unfolding, Drew McIntyre is pointing the finger at Jimmy. Cody and Jimmy had a quick conversation in the back on Cody Rhodes' way to the ring to open the show. What do you think about this? What if Cody Rhodes was the guy who took out Jacob Fatu? Cody Rhodes the week prior gets into a match with Drew McIntyre, uses his belt to hit Drew McIntyre. He kind of glossed over it a little bit on this week's edition of Friday Night SmackDown. You've seen Cody Rhodes lean a little bit into some more heel tactics, not going full-blown heel, but he's done some stuff to kind of muddy the waters with his pure, clean baby face. We would say that he has a baby face that maybe has some soot smudges on it right now. He's not full gray. He's not full heel either, and he's obviously more babyface than anything else right now. But what if this is the prelude to Cody Rhodes turning heel? It's something that he talks a lot about in a lot of interviews that he does. There's a lot of conversation about when's he going to turn heel, what's he going to do, is he going to become a heel? What if this is kind of the little nugget that leads to him turning heel? He's the one who takes out Jacob Fatu because he felt Jacob Fatu was too big of a threat to his championship. Gets into this match with Drew McIntyre because he feels he can handle Drew McIntyre no problem. Later on with Jacob Fatu's getting, we'll talk about it here in a little bit about what he's got going on. Actually, we'll talk about it next. What happens if we find out that Cody Rhodes was the one that took out Jacob Fatu? I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it'd be cool, but I feel like it needs to be kind of someone in the Samoan line, maybe a new debut. If there's somebody that we haven't talked about yet, I forget. Okay. I forget who are the up and coming hot stars and things like that. There's already a guy that was in Noah that signed and already has been released, so it's a little bit herky jerky with the.
That was Zilla Fatu.
Yeah, so who could it be? I don't want it to be Solo. I want it to be somebody new or something that's impactful that would really impact Jacob Fatu and really hurt his soul. Cody Rhodes would be great. It's a great idea, but I'm telling you, man, when you got a cash cow like that going around the world, I just think that you got his job now is to make the guys that he wrestles with heel. It does feel like after The Rock, like the Rock story was huge, and now it's been diminished, and so Cody is the champ, but doesn't feel like the biggest thing. You know what I mean? It feels like the other side is a little bit bigger with Braun Breaker and Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins, CM Punk. It just feels like it's a little bit swayed, and Cody Rhodes has to have more impact. And yes, turning heel would definitely do that. But at the same token, I'm definitely curious to see how Drew McIntyre, how this feud continues, because he's going to lose. So we'll see how it plays out.
All right. Real quick before we get into what's going on with Jacob Fatu and a bunch of other wrestlers, what was your show of the week? I want to give it to Raw. I thought Raw was really, really well done.
Absolutely. Raw was really, really good. Paul Heyman and the way in which he can deliver a promo is so enticing. The way in which he can tell stories and move things along. He's actually become a story, which is, dude, how many guys is he going to screw over the course of the last 2 years? It's a story, and it'll be interesting to see how that gets weaved into the things moving forward. And I think that most people just want to see Roman Reigns pick him up and slam him through a table, maybe slam him through 2 tables, and that'll be like maybe a nice little montage reminder of ECW or something. ECW? Yeah, it's like just a little bit of a reminder of, hey, Paul Heyman's a character, and he's a heel manager, and the heel manager's got to get his. And clearly it was cool, which is Roman Reigns got to establish himself. So there's some stuff that's going to get tied together, so we'll see how it all plays out. And then you got the women. Real fast, you got to pay attention. I like the idea of more storyline for Tiff and for who turned heel on SmackDown again?
Jade Cargill.
Jade Cargill.
Jade Cargill attacked.
Yes, I liked that. That was a highlight that I put. Heel turn. Jade Cargill, I think.
You got to see Kiana James, who I know you're a huge fan.
Yes, plays well. So SmackDown was good. Did a good job with at least advancing some things, but Raw was the show of the week. Pay attention to Jade Cargill being heel. It played off really, really well. And it'll be a nice, it feels like, again, you got to put some stuff together for Saturday night's main event, but good enough for me. So the show of the week was Raw, and I know you got a nice, healthy bucket of news and notes. Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made Jock's list?
Really only two things, but they're kind of packed.
Yes.
We're talking a little bit about some walking wounded wrestlers in WWE. A new injury update has emerged on Jacob Fatu after he was removed from his planned match on SmackDown last Friday. Fatu was attacked backstage by Drew McIntyre with the Cody Rhodes in a title match, which ended with Rhodes getting himself disqualified using that title belt like we just talked about. Reports are Fatu was written off television due to getting some dental work done, which could possibly rule him out for WWE Survivor Series, where he was planned for the men's War Game match. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer reported Jacob is having dental work done, so he's going to be out for a while. It's not going to be a long time. My impression was before the end of the year, but probably missing War Games, so it's another person out of War Games. The War Games is freaking jinx, Meltzer would go on to say. After WWE's Crown Jewel last week, it emerged another name planned for War Games. World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins had suffered his injury in his match against Cody Rhodes, seemingly ruling him out of the equation as well. In the latest update on Rollins, Meltzer said he's having surgery. That's 100%. When they open up, they'll find out. They don't know all the damage in his shoulder, and they will find out the damage when they open him up. When they do the surgery, they'll have an idea. I guess the best way to put it is they hope he'll be okay for WrestleMania. There's no way of knowing one way or the other today whether he will be or not be, but he's out for months, that's for sure. Another potential question mark for WWE Survivor Series and War Games match comes on the women's side, as Rhea Ripley suffered a broken nose during the live event in Japan. So a lot of injuries in WWE right now, everything kind of impacting War Games, impacting Survivor Series, impacting possibly WrestleMania. So we'll have to see. And then we do have an update on a returning WWE star. A major update has emerged on the timetable and potential plans for Liv Morgan to return to WWE following her injury. Morgan suffered a separated shoulder during a match against Kairi Sane on the June 16th episode of WWE Raw. She's been out of action since, although she has made occasional appearances for the company, including in Las Vegas for the announced WrestleMania 43, as well as the announcement for the WrestleMania 43 taking place in Saudi Arabia. In a new update on her return and recovery, PW Insider reports that WWE is expecting and hoping Liv Morgan will be ready to return to the ring by the start of 2026. It's said to be possible she could make a return sooner than that if she's ready. The expectation is she will come back and continue the storyline with Dirty Dom, Roxanne Perez, and what remains of the Judgment Day, if it remains at all. That's going to do it for this week's wrestling news and notes.
Make sure you follow Adam on X at Adam RSTRLZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Make sure if you agree or disagree with anything, let us know. Hit us up. We always love the banter among professional wrestling fans. If you feel like AEW is going in the right direction, if you feel like Okada and Takeshita can be a really big deal, or you don't like it, if you feel like others should be highlighted, if you feel like Mercedes Moné needs 15 belts and 12 is not enough, let us know. It's always interesting in the world of wrestling. So much debate, so much to get into with heel, faces, where people need to go, who's on top, who's not. It's an amazing opportunity. There's a lot of young stars making their runs, and a lot of people are very interested and invested in what things are and how things are going on in regards to AEW and TNA and everything moving forward. So it's a great time in the world of wrestling. There's so much good content. Check out Hornswoggle on Stephanie McMahon. Not an interview I thought I'd see, but it was very interesting for him to tell the stories. A lot of interesting stuff in the world of wrestling outside the ring as well. So much drama, intrigue. It's great. All the wrestling podcasters are doing their thing, sharing their stories as to what happens, what doesn't happen. Some of the wrestlers that have been cut from the developmental program are sharing their experiences, whether they really love wrestling or not, and stuff like that. So there's so much to get into regarding behind the scenes. It's really interesting to talk about the main stuff, but also the little stuff that's happening too behind the scenes with podcasts and what people talk about in the interviews that they've done. And it's just a great time. Guys like Chris Van Fleet, Busted Open, DocNJock Wrestling Podcast, so much good content that you can just dive into, and so many good controversies. If you want to know about Devon and what he thinks about AEW, we'll talk about that maybe next week as well regarding, is there some bias? I mean, WWE Hall of Famers talking about AEW is always interesting, but there's family involved, so there's always some good drama about Tony Khan. It's like, who took the shot at Tony Khan? It's always JD from New York, and this week it was Devon Dudley. So it's a fun time in the world of wrestling, and make sure you pay attention to Doc and Jock as we break it all down. We love it. It's just a freak show, and Adam and I, when you talk about freak shows, we got to talk about it. It's always great. I can't wait to break it all down next week on the next episode of the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.